So once more to be clear, Channel 1 is German, Channel 2 is English, and Channel 3 is French. I now ask the photographers to please sit down to the left and right-hand side of this room.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to open a press conference on the American film Sense and Sensibility.
American? American?
No, United States. So it says. Is it wrong? Okay. Yes, that's.
No,
That's
yes,
a
no, it was
contradiction in
paid
terms,
for,
I would
by the
like
Americans.
to welcome especially Emma Thompson.
Jane Austen.
She wrote the script and played Eleanor Dashwood. I would like to also to welcome especially Ang Lee, the director of the film. And the producer of the film, Lindsay Duran.
Hey!
Your questions, please. Question right-hand side. On the right-hand side at the door. Right-hand side of the door. Can you please keep your hands up, okay? Have you got someone there? Okay.
Alles klar, ja.
All right. Your question.
Ich möchte mich erstmal bedanken für
First of all, I'd like to thank you for this wonderful film. So once more, I would like to thank you for this wonderful film. And now I would like to ask a question to Miss Thompson. At the time of Jane Austen, authoresses, i.e. female authors, often had to use a male pseudonym in order to be successful. And I would like to know whether today people still make a certain difference. If you'd written the script not as Emma Thompson but as Edward Thompson, would it have made a difference?
I think it would have made a difference if I'd written it as Arnold Schwarzenegger, certainly. But I don't think that since the commencement of the novel, which, as you know, is largely regarded as a female form, and has become very successful, of course, as such. And since women started making money writing novels, the whole process of novel writing has become a great deal more respected. I'd say that's pretty accurate. And I don't think anymore it's necessary to... Would you like me to do this in smaller
No, you do it
clumps?
as long as you like. We have simultaneous translation. No hassle at all.
Oh.
Yes.
I think I've come up in the world. I think that certainly when Austen started, she wrote Sense and Sensibility, and it was just called Sense and Sensibility by a lady. So it was clear that it had been written by a woman, but it just didn't give her the name. And it was a mark of the great respect with which she was held by that small circle of people who actually read her books, that by the last novel it was under her proper name, by Jane Austen. Oddly enough, though, later on the Bronte sisters all wrote under pseudonyms, as you know, and there was a huge reaction to Emily Bronte's novel Wuthering Heights, because they couldn't believe that an unmarried woman could possibly have written this very shocking book. But I think that nowadays we're through over that particular hurdle.
Okay. We have a question here on the left-hand side. If you could please stand up. Thank you very much indeed.
Hi. Emma, at this point of your career, do you believe the Academy of Hollywood is in love with you? How did you react with a double nomination again?
Well, I was very moved by the fact that I was nominated for the Writing Award, which I really should share entirely with Lindsay, who sort of held my hand and kind of, guided me and was a true mentor all the way through that writing process. I think that it's very nice that I haven't been punished, actually, for doing something different. So I've no doubt that divine vengeance will be visited upon me at some point, though. So I'm just waiting for that, and just until then, you know, enjoying it.
Okay, we have a question here on the right-hand side. Thank you.
I have one question for Mr. Ang Lee. What I liked in the film is that you have a feminine touch. I mean that we get an image of the women that are a little bit stronger, a little bit, they can decide, and the men are a little bit helpless. I don't know whether you agree, and I'd like to ask you if you believe that this image captures today's reality, the image of the women.
That's the image of my circumstances. I got being flanked by two great women, brilliant women.
Creep.
In a Jane Austen world, I got no choice but make them look great and what it is. I'm very loyal to my work. I put a lot of my personality into it, but not so much as Lindsay chose me to do it, because she sees that personality and thought I was a natural to do Jane Austen in 19th century England, except of course I'm Chinese. So I think that all came very naturally. I think the movie I came here last time, Wedding Banquet, was a big break for me. I was straight. I did a gay movie with great sincerity and warmth of heart, and I really had to struggle for that and make it work. I think that's a big lesson, a big jump for me. And I try to put myself into the women's world, to put in the novel, into the script, and to who I work with, and pretty much treat them neutrally. And then an actress play them, and they look feminine. That's my principle. It's like an abstract painting. You are the painting. I mean, it just provoke emotion. I would say I stay neutral, and if you see that, I'm very delighted.
Okay, this lady here, question.
Ms. Thompson, we've seen you here some years back in Dead Alive, if I'm not mistaken.
Dead Again.
Dead Again, yes, excuse me.
Yeah.
Well, it's rather a long way between the two movies. I won't use an English term saying backward in terms of aesthetic of cinema. I'll tell the French word, à rebours. It's in a way, you know, you made, I know you speak very well French from Cannes, I know this. Well, you made in a way, from a cinematic point of view, you made a way à rebours. Would you comment on this?
I've got no idea what Aragoul means. You'll have to tell me.
It's not. Let's say it was more pushed in terms of modern cinema, than this one, which looks more classic, you know, and more, you know, in another key.
Well, they're just
visual key. I mean, visually. And I'd like you to comment this as an actress and an author. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Well, Dead Again.
Carry on. Can we stop taking too much photographs while we sort of go on? Thank you.
Dead Again was a thriller written by a great writer, Scott Frank, and indeed produced by Lindsay Duran. So that was the time when we met, and Lindsay and I discovered this mutual passion for Austen, and Lindsay asked me to write Sense and Sensibility. So it's odd that it should have been the last film that I was here with, because that was the genesis of this film. With regard to modern, classic, all that, the whole question of the period movie, which I get very bored with, because I don't understand why we don't get the fact that we haven't actually changed that much. You know, that we think somehow going back 200 years, everybody didn't feel or do or speak or behave in the same ways. But of course, there were certain behavioural mannerisms that were different, but essentially people were dealing with very much the same problems. And for women particularly, you were dealing with your finances, you were dealing with surviving in a world that was run entirely by men. And still is, of course. And so it seems to me to be very modern. And I think what Ang did was, by shooting it in the way that he did, and I don't quite know how he weaves that magic, but he's very mysterious. It's terrifying. he made us feel as though we were there with them. So you don't feel as though you're watching a period film at all. So in some ways, I feel that Sense and Sensibility is just as contemporary, for me anyway. Not at all.
There's a question here right in front, this gentleman here.
Hello. You know, right now you've just been nominated twice. You've been in the papers constantly. You're very popular here, and you're being barraged by photographers everywhere. And I'm sure when you walk out in public, you get the paparazzi everywhere. And now we have a new form of paparazzi, and it's called video paparazzi. I would like to get your take on this. Do you feel it's mutualistic? Do you feel they're invading your privacy? And if you can share with me maybe an experience that you've had with the video paparazzi.
Oh, God. Oh, I don't know, it plunges me into despair, that question. I don't know why. But it, to be very brief, because we really ought to be talking about the film, and not my experiences with the press, which are not very interesting. You know, sometimes it's difficult, obviously. But, you know, here and now, here we are. We're here to sell and push and make everybody go and watch our film. So it's my job, really.
When you walk out of the room? We need translation. Oh, you've got one, Mike? In this one there. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. This is my tape recorder. I'm just saying, but you know, when you walk out the door, you
I walk out the door. Actually, I think you probably have a slightly bizarre notion of how it is. I mean, it really doesn't happen at all, except if I happen to be in a hotel in a foreign country, you know, with a film. Then sometimes you'll get people following you, but otherwise, it really doesn't happen. Honestly, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. We have a question here of this gentleman here.
Well, congratulations. Great movie to start with, really. Great screenwriting and acting of the male actress also, by the way. But my question is to Mr. Ang Lee and to the producer. My question to the director is, there is one scene when both women, sisters, are on the bed, and the younger is making fun of the elder and trying to get her out, right? Somehow. Now, Marianne sitting on the edge of the bed is in focus, and Eleanor is out of focus. Now, this is a, it's a, yes.
I've never noticed that.
Yes, yeah, I guess.
Am I ever out of focus in this film?
Yes, you are.
What's going on?
Yes, you are. I'm sorry. Now, I wondered, really, was it like a 2-minute scene or something? And I wondered, is this a style decision in how he's going to proceed and for the rest of the movie? And then I saw nothing like this again. It rather seemed like you're keeping technique out, you know, as you usually do in films which are called period films, although I'm not saying this is one. The question is, if this is so, are you generally trying, doing a movie like this, to keep style and technique out, you know, to make it very much like reading a novel? And my question to the producer is, choosing a novel like this, exactly this novel by Jane Austen, are you looking for contemporary clues, or is it just the story itself that you think is okay? Or do you want it to have, you know, are you looking for some link in things that are exactly in discussion now? Thank you.
Blimey.
We constantly, not only us, between the writer and star and myself, but to the cast and crew, we constantly talk about Jane Austen. Jane Austen this, Jane Austen that, and always ends up, but in the book. That's the end of discussion. But the more we approach, the closer we approach to shooting, the less we mention the name of Jane Austen. By the time I shot that scene, we don't say Jane Austen at all. I wasn't thinking about her because it's different media. In order to do something she did to her reader 200 years ago, I have to do something different to today's moviegoer. So that shot you're talking about was one of my proud shots. I think it's beautifully composed, one of pretty shot. It's about Marianne getting angry, and she should be in the foreground. And Eleanor is retreating to the background. And I have to say, I appreciate Emma. It's very understanding. I just went over and tell her, you'll be out of focus, and I have no coverage.
Yeah.
And the producer
and
there
6
gave
hours
us
later, I was fine. I was absolutely, it only took like 6 hours.
So style is very important, I think, but not as important as how you tell a story. My style came from what I think most important for the movie. And style, I think, is something for the people who doesn't have style to worry about. So I never really thinking about it. It will come along. For those who don't have a style to worry about, I think whatever is served, the material. Well, I take a clue from there.
As far as, I think when you love a novel, when you read a novel, any novel that you love, you just love it. And then later on, if you decide to make a movie out of it, people say, well, is it contemporary? And you say, yes, of course. And then you begin saying, it's contemporary because, but I think the defense I always made of this book is a couple of things. One is it combines big laughs and strong emotions. There are great big jokes in that book, and many of the jokes in the movie are actually jokes written by Emma, but it gets back to the sort of humor of the book. And the emotions are very strong. Even Jane Austen, members of the Jane Austen Society admit it's the most emotional of her books. And I think when people go to the movies now, they really go to the movies, not just watch something on video, but actually leave their homes and pay their babysitters and find a place to park and do everything you have to go through to see a movie. They want a big experience. And so this isn't a mild, that book was not a mild thing to read. You really felt it I cried when I read the book and I laughed out loud when I read the book. The other thing is that the issue of who should we marry? The issue of is the love that Marianne and Willoughby share a better love or a worse love or a different love from what Eleanor and Edward have, I think is just as contemporary now as it was at any stage of human existence. This is something people will always ask. What is the way we should love? Should we fall in love when we're 17 years old and be passionately and sexually attracted to somebody, and if we ever think about settling for something less than that, then we've done ourselves a disservice? Or should we look for a kind of affectionate friendship that will last forever? I don't think that question ever goes away.
Sorry, we have a question on the right-hand side. If you please sort of...
This is a question for Mr. Lee. You came here a few years ago, a bit less known than you are now, and I was wondering if you were very eager to have your film now in Berlin. Do you feel some special loyalty to Berlin, having your film here this year after having done so well earlier in your career in Berlin?
Absolutely. Of all the award I got or will get or will not get, still that Golden Bear 2 years ago meant the most to me. And that changed my life. I remember we were one of the first ones to try Avid, the computer editing, 2 years ago. Entire post-production were so cheap, we didn't print any dailies. I never saw the film. It was all on this digital, bad digital, small image. And I did entire post-production in New York with American crew. Nobody, including the editor, knows what exactly the actors were talking about. And the first time I see with the audience is here at the Zoo Palace. It was quite an experience. So yes, I feel like a son of Berlin. This feels like homecoming. And plus, it's great for the distribution.
We have a question here in the middle. It's you, yeah. Could you make us see you?
Madame Thompson.
French?
La question c'est...
Madam Thompson, I would like to ask you a question in French, or rather two, to be precise. One question to Miss Thompson and one question to the director. This is, I think, your debut as a scriptwriter. Miss Thompson, this is your debut as a scriptwriter. How do you feel as a scriptwriter? Do you have perhaps a more personal project you would love to realize in the near future? And now a question to the director of Sense and Sensibility. Is this an American, European, or an Asian film, or a cocktail?
That's your question.
I'm sorry, I heard Madame Thompson, and I just...
No, there's one for you as well. I tell you what, why don't I answer your one to me, and then you could pose your one to Ang after. Yeah?
Okay,
Should we do that?
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay. Oh, Christ, what did you want? Yes, I'm sorry, of course. And I'll reply in English, because...
yeah, that's all right.
Is that okay? Well, I mean, it took me a long time, this script. It took 5 years to write, and so therefore it was a journey of discovery. And as you all know, writing is painful and lonely, and it's quite hard, I think. I think it's much harder than acting, and less well paid, sadly. Which is a bit of a bummer, because if I do want to do another script later that's personal, I know, I'll have to scale down the lifestyle. I'm kidding. I would very much like to write another script, and I would love to write something modern, and but there's all sorts of things that one would love to do that one perhaps is not capable of doing. However, if you're given the opportunity to do something like this, and this is the result, I think the least you can do is take that as proper and firm encouragement to have another go. Whether you fail or not is immaterial. In fact, failure's probably very good for you, and indeed, no doubt, inevitable. So that's how I feel.
Now the second part, the question to Ang Lee.
Could you please repeat the question? So,
C'est un film américain. C'est un film européen.
I asked, your film Sense and Sensibility, is that an American, a European or an Asian film, or is it a sort of universal cocktail?
It's a universal cocktail. I hope you're enjoying it.
It's a Columbia cocktail.
I'm sorry, the producer says Columbia cocktail, not universal.
Okay, we have a question here in front. This lady.
Hiya.
I was wondering, did anything funny happen on the set while you were filming Sense and Sensibility?
You're married to him, aren't you?
Thank you.
I know, you're the anecdote searchers, aren't you?
That's like terrible.
Did anything funny happen on the set?
Yeah, while you were filming Sense and Sensibility, did anything, like humorous happen on the set that you want to share with us? Story, anecdote, anything?
Right, okay, no. We laughed a lot, but, I wish I could tell you that, at one point my costume just fell off of its own accord, and I just, the thing about filming is that it doesn't really happen like that, I mean, there's, I have got some good stories, haven't I, about animals and things.
Yeah, sheep.
And sheep. We had, maybe one, okay. We were working with a lot of animals while we were out there, and we had these sheep, which had lots and lots of hair and wool, and the shepherd was getting very hysterical because they were overheating in the sun because he wasn't allowed to shear them, So I was doing a romantic scene with Mr. Hugh Grant at one point, and these sheep, and they all had little horns, and they were doing picturesque sheep acting in the back of the shot, because there were sheep in every single shot except the interiors. There were dogs in the interiors, but Ang wanted sheep virtually in every shot. So there they were, and they were trotting up the hill, and one of them just stopped and just fainted. It just went. One of the funniest things I've ever seen, and also because of the hair, the wool, it couldn't get up. So it was doing a lot of trying to right itself, and I just felt that there was something wrong with a sheep that couldn't get up once it had fallen over. And so we all just said to the shepherd, I think you better shear the sheep now. So then they appear later in the film, bald, in the back of another shot. So there you go. Sheep. Not at all. No, don't start.
We have a question on the far right-hand side.
This is to you, Emma Thompson. And first of all, I'd like to say that I really admire your work. I'm a fan.
Thank you.
And the second thing is, the first time in your career I realized after Carrington, now you're playing somebody, also a strong, very strong female, but both movies are settled around the turn of the century, like Sense and Sensibility at the end of the 18th, Carrington at the beginning of the 19th. And actually that's kind of changed your career, because usually you used to play lots of different types, like this reading-obsessed female Maggie and Peter's friends, like the Queen and Henry V, whatever, you know. So how come? Second question, what's the future going to bring?
The invasion of a small country? I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, moving on. I don't know. I try not to look into the future, and I try not to have... I've never had a career plan, you know, hence things like this happening, you know. If I had a career plan, I might have said to Lindsay 5 years ago, no, I'm not going to sit down and write a script. I don't know whether I can do it when I think I might be able to act. I'm just going to try and act, you know. And I anytime anyone comes along and says, do you fancy something that's a little bit different, I always think, well, why not? Have a go. And sometimes you really fall flat on your face, and sometimes it's best not to have any plan. I always worry about young people who have a plan. That's because sometimes you're looking at something and it's above your head and you don't see what's passing in front of your eyes. Do you know what I mean? So I have no idea. In fact, I don't even know what's going to happen today.
Okay, we have a question here, the middle section, far end, the lady there.
I've seen you at many press conferences now, and you're always very, very funny. I always tell people that you started off in stand-up comedy, which most of the public don't realise. And I just watched this movie and felt that the voice that you always give off in press conferences where you're very funny was more in this film than any other film I've seen. Maybe your voice is there, would you say? And how did you approach the humour as you were writing it, not to go too over the top?
Well, thank you. I think probably the humour that I do have is very much influenced by Austen, who I started reading when I was very young. And she, as Lindsay says, she makes us laugh a lot. And I read her books and I find her very, very, very funny and very satirical. Writing the script, I don't know how to answer your question really, because I'm not very good at analysing my own acting or writing, or I suppose it's a form of self-deprecation. You know, you just don't. I don't sit about thinking, God, you know, that's interesting. How did she do that? I mean, yeah, because you just try and do it. And if a voice has come through, it's partly Austen. I suppose it's partly Lindsay, or it's partly me, or it's partly Ang. It's a lot of different atmospheres, I think. But it was very important to us to make it very funny. And I remember saying to Ang, we had this conversation about when we were casting the film, about how all the actors had to be funny. You know, it's all very well writing a funny script, but if you haven't got actors who can deliver lines like Hugh Laurie delivering Mr. Palmer's lines, who can't deliver them, it's not going to be funny. So actually, I suppose what it is mining that very deep seam of irony that exists in the British psyche, and that actually runs from Jane Austen in almost direct line through to Monty Python. It's very true, though. I know it sounds daft, but it is true, I think.
Okay, we have many questions still to come, and I would like to make short questions, if you can, so we can hear lots of answers. So there's a question here on the right-hand side, this lady there. No, there we are.
What does it mean to you to be opening the festival, and are you going to win the bear?
Should I answer that?
Yeah, go on.
Last time when I was here, we want to win the bear, and this time we just want to meet you. That's pretty much summed up.
Okay, we have a further question here on the sort of this section there, this lady there.
I'd like to ask Emma Thompson. Lately, you choose to play love stories, like Carrington was a special love story. Also, Sense and Sensibility is a love story. And it seems that you try to enlighten different aspects of love. Is that true? As a person?
It's very difficult, actually, to find a story that people are willing to make into a film about women if love isn't involved. Because generally speaking, that's what we're there for, isn't it? In films. I mean, sad, but true. You know, it's not as if you can go off and make a film about the Opium Wars and we're all going to get cast in it, because we're not, except as the love interest or, you know, somebody who needs to be rescued. It's actually very difficult to, if you see what I mean, this is one of the great problems, actually, because when you really put your finger onto something, because one of my biggest questions is, what is female heroic action? What is that? Huh? Yeah, well, I think it's got a lot to do with character, but that is invisible. It's not active. It's not something you necessarily can see, and it is not necessarily manifested in actions. So it's a very profound question, really, and I hope I've vaguely answered it. It's too wiggly for me to really go into very deeply, and I don't want to kind of bore you, but I think that's partly the problem, is that, you know, I'm unlikely to be asked to go and play somebody who isn't a lover of one form or another. Or I might be asked to play a wife, or I might be asked to play a mother, or, you know, or a whore or a virgin or whatever. But other than that, what roles are there for women?
Okay. The question here on the left-hand side.
This is for Mr. Ang Lee. Being a director has to be one of the most stressful jobs. Like Peter Bogdanovich almost lost his mind. John Frankenheimer had to battle alcoholism. Are you battling any demons, and are you losing your insanity? And Ms. Thompson, was it a dream or nightmare working with him?
Well, not as bad as English food. It's terrifying. Not only because she's the writer, you know, the director oath that the writer on set, not because she's the movie star, the Queen of England, the matriarch of the whole production, but mostly because she's a brilliant person, you know, by itself, just standing next to her, working, it is terrifying. A lot of pressure, but I think that kind of pressure is very positive. It tends to bring the best out of me. It's a great pleasure and pleasure to work with her. I say that not because she's sitting next to me. I say that to my wife in bedroom as well.
She must love that.
We don't actually have that much in conflict when it comes to writer-director, because language is her strength in this case. But movie is my thing. I'm very appreciative that I was the only Chinese among the 50 miles anywhere I go in that whole experience. But they put movie in my hands, so that's not of a burden, also a very thankful thing, enjoyable thing to do. So it worked out very well. I think it's very workable. Also, we spent a long time doing script rewrite. So in that process, we get to know each other, get agree on things. I get to pull her into my movie world, and me into that Jane Austen world, and the sense of humor, English dry sense of humor, and try to make integrity out of it. And mostly, I get a chance, a sense, how do I make the worldwide audience like these English people. It's one of the best things happening in my life.
I think there was a question. There's this gentleman there.
I would like to ask Mr. Lee why you think you were overlooked by the Oscars for best.
I know that question is coming up. Your guess is as good. Yeah. Did you finish your question?
How you feel about it?
I have no feeling, frankly. I'm deep into pre-production of my next project. Actually, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. It's a free country. They vote whatever they want to vote. I don't think the Chinese community take too well, but that's the kind of burden I don't like to take. I want to make the movies I like to make. Once the movie's out, it's everybody's movie. And for filmmakers, the memory, the experience you had, it's a great experience in this case. That That's what matters in my mind. So I'm just very happy that I did this movie and make the leap. Nothing else really mattered, and I'm happy for all of them get nominations. It's a very prestige thing. I don't know what else to say. I kept getting calls, answer machine try to remind me that I should be angry, but I'm not.
Okay. There's a question here on the right-hand side.
Question to Emma Thompson. Did it, during the pre-production or during the filming, occur to you to direct a film yourself? Not this one, but sometime in the near future. And are you planning to do theater sometime too? So directing and theater.
No, I don't plan it at all. I think it's the most difficult job. I really do. It's a killer, directing. It really is. I mean, we were all sort of at Ang's feet, really, because it was just awesome, because he was coming in to a British crew, a British cast, a British script. You know, all these actors knew each other as well, and they all thought, oh, yeah, it's Jane Austen, we can do her. And then Ang turned up and said, actually, I would like something a little different. And I'm sure that that's why the film has the qualities that it has, because we were all knocked off centre, you know, but because we're all used to that world, you know, the BBC doing endless sort of adaptations of Austen. And Ang required more. And what he required was extremely subtle. And it was wonderful watching him with all of us, you know, and indeed having my own preconceptions about how I might do it taken away from me very violently, quite quickly. I recovered from that, and each day became a real adventure. But I wouldn't want to... I love collaborating. I absolutely love that. I think that's why I'm completely used up on a set, because we're all together. It is a huge family, and you owe some part of yourself to everybody. You give a great deal. I think with directing, it's almost the opposite. You can't really afford to make yourself part of that family, because there are too many pulls on you anyway. You have to be slightly apart. You have to retain a slight... I don't know whether this is rubbish, Ang, but you tell me. But you have to have some kind of objectivity, don't you? You have to be apart slightly from everyone, because you're holding all the reins. And I think I feel I was missing out on the party or something, because I had to be too responsible. And I'm not patient enough either. Am I?
I think a director is a watcher. You like to watch, and an actor, you have to like to be watched. So it's a big difference.
Yeah. What he's saying is I'm a show-off, and he isn't.
There's another question here.
True.
A question to Emma Thompson, the scriptwriter. Hello, here I am.
Hiya.
Why did you give your debut with Jane Austen? And did you have certain actors in mind while writing the script? And what are your future projects?
Okay, just once for all, I haven't got any future projects. Okay, so...
What a shame.
Yeah, not yet. I was asked to do it by Lindsay, so that's the reason I undertook it. It was the only reason that wouldn't have occurred to me otherwise. And yes, we did have ideas about actors, because we organised a reading of the script 2 years before, so that I could hear it, because I really wanted to hear it, see whether it worked. And 5 of the actors who came to do that reading, Ang liked enough to cast, having sort of auditioned everybody. So, yeah.
There's a question here on the left-hand side.
First of all, I really liked the movie. I laughed a lot. Thank you. And then I'd like to ask, Hugh Grant, or Edward, seems not only as such a shy, but even a weak and repressed character. Is this the kind of guy for a strong woman like Eleanor, and I think you as well?
Well, I'm surprised that you react to Edward like that. I think that the primary quality in Edward is his probity, his integrity, which is something in which Eleanor glories, which may seem to be weak. I mean, this was actually, Ang, you come in on this one, because you were concerned about Edward and about his motivation in him seeming weak.
But when you get Hugh Grant, you don't have a problem. That's the truth. He's one of the actors who can really turn that wimpishness into rebellion against his society. He's someone who come in the first 15 minutes, leave 80 pages, and come back, break everybody's heart. I think we really use the advantage of that actor, I should say movie star. I don't know if people agree with that, but he's right on the money. And I think that chemistry is good. Eleanor is a very strong woman, not so much physically, but she's really tough. And she is in a very masculine role, and it's the right chemistry that Edward is feminine. I like it. I don't know.
Yeah, and the humour, of course, is very important. That you know that somehow these two people have never met anybody who they've never met anyone who has had that effect on them before. So, no, I don't think of him as being weak at all, actually.
There's a question here, right in front.
In San Sebastian in Spain in September, you said that after Sense and Sensibility, that you were going to spend less time doing fantasy and spend more time in the future paying attention to reality, your own life. Do you still feel that way? And also, when I interviewed Ken, he said that the two of you were still chums and that you might even work together in the future. And I'd love to hear your take on it all.
Do you know, I'd hate to talk about that, so I'm not going to. You know, as I've said, I haven't got any plans for the future, except to stop, so that the mind, you know, the mind needs time to recover. You need to give yourself a lot of fallow time, I think. We're all encouraged in this business to go, oh, what's next, what's next, what's next? And it inspires, I think, a form of greed, not financial greed, but greed for an overstimulation. And I think it's time to just look at a tree, you know, never mind anything else, you know?
I'm afraid we have not much time left, so we must be very short. Okay, there's a question here in the middle section on the left-hand side.
You mentioned in this press conference that choices to be made on this film were taken away from you early on. With your stature as an Oscar winner screenwriter, what were your expectations about a director for this film? And I had read somewhere that Mr. Lee's choice, Mr. Hsu's Lois, at first was a bit of a shock to you. I mean, I love the film and I think it was very successful, but the expectation perhaps is that a native English speaker would direct a film like this. Can you speak about the genesis of how he came on to this production?
Oh, that should be to Lindsay, absolutely, because she's entirely responsible for that choice. And indeed, I have to add that I wasn't at all shocked because I'd seen The Wedding Banquet. And I knew exactly why they'd thought of Ang, because he seemed to understand. Certainly, one of the major things about this movie was that it had to be romantic satire or satirical romance. One of the other, or, you know, moving into weaving like that, like a skein or like DNA, you know. And he got that molecule sorted in The Wedding Banquet. And then, of course, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. There's a line in Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, which is exactly, in his script, which is exactly the same as mine. At one point, one of the sisters in Eat, Drink, Man, Woman turns to the other one and says, "What do you know of my heart?" It's exactly the same line. And Ang understood everything. It was extraordinary. But Lindsay, you should say how you came to this.
Well, basically, it goes back a little bit to the question I was asked before. It has to do with these big jokes and strong emotions, trying to find a director who could capture both of those equally and not sacrifice the one for the other. It was as difficult as finding a writer who could do that. And when the people at Mirage, where I work, Sidney Pollack and a young man named Jeff Steer, who saw Ang's work actually before I did, were very impressed with his ability to pull off that juggling act. And we were looking for a director for Sensibility at the time, and we had not ruled out directors who did not speak English as their first language, because we really wanted this to be a universal Columbia experience. We wanted it to be something that would appeal to people all over the world. There were many directors from different parts of the world who were interested in directing it. Ang was not the only one to come forward. But in fact, we gave the script to him. He didn't come to us. We sort of begged him to do it. And we were very pleased when we first met with him that he did understand the humor, but said also, he said, I want this film to break people's hearts so badly they'll still be recovering from it 2 months later. And that was what we wanted, in addition to the jokes. We didn't just want the emotions, we wanted both. And so we offered him the job. He very nicely accepted it. He was very shocked. And I remember I called Emma to tell her about this idea that we were very fond of, and thinking this was going to be a little bit of a scary call. And she said, Ang Lee? I said, yes, we think it would be a really good idea. She said, oh, did he direct The Wedding Banquet? And we said, yeah. And she said, what a great idea. As did Columbia. Nobody was surprised once they put the two ideas together, A Wedding Banquet and Sense and Sensibility. And then actually Eat, Drink, Man, Woman came later and just sort of confirmed what we'd all felt.
Really, the last question, this gentleman, short. Thank you.
Very, very short. Hi, Emma.
You're not that short. You're quite a handsome height.
Thank you. In Hollywood, every time there's a success, people they want more. Has anyone asked you to do a sequel to Sense and Sensibility? And USA Today yesterday said that your Oscar chances might be hurt if there was a backlash against Austin mania, as they called it. What do you think about that kind of speculation?
I can hardly bear it. That's a terrible hit. Austin, and a backlash. Heavens. Oh, it's so dramatic, isn't it? One wonders what form it would take, you know. I don't know, lobbyists in mob caps outside libraries, you know, going, oh, I don't know, yes, or just force-feeding people the naked lunch, you know. I don't know. I mean, it's so great that the film is enjoyed by people, you know. When Oscar time comes up, as Ang says, you know, you have this Pat Doyle got nominated for the score. I rang him the other day, and he congratulated me. He said, "Well, thanks very much, Debbie. You know, I got the nomination. I got the nomination. I was ever so pleased. It was wonderful. I got it." And then I thought, well, that's nice. I'll just carry on with my work now. And he said, then everybody started ringing me up, and they rang me up all afternoon, and I got caught up in it. You know, and that's what happens is, you know, you think, oh, that's nice. How lovely. I'm so pleased for the film. And you think, that's the end of it. And then 17 million telephone calls later, you realise it's not. That Oscar creates its own kind of world, which you really shouldn't be sucked into. So I'll try and deal with the backlash, you know.
Well,
pardon? A sequel to Sense and Sensibility? What, Sense and Sensibility 2, or just another of her novels?
If you would come up with your own script for Austin.
I can't imagine a more obscene idea. And then there really would be a backlash. Then the Jane Austen Society would be around my house and I'd be strung up from the nearest lamppost. That's what would happen.
Well, thank you very much for coming along. All the best for your film. Thank you very much.